Earlier this week, I spoke to Terry Waite about the importance of chess to him during his years in captivity. And first of all, I asked him, after 4 years in solitary confinement, what it was like to find himself amongst other people.
It was an extraordinary experience. I mean, coming, first of all, from those years alone to suddenly being thrown in together with people who had formed patterns and associations and so on. And I was astounded that they'd been able to do what they had together, but they had nothing. I mean, we had very, very little. Just a toothbrush, toothpaste, sometimes soap, sometimes not. Sometimes a towel, sometimes not. Everything else was taken away. But Terry Anderson, who's a marvellous person and a very, very creative man, sometimes they give him little triangular packets of cheese wrapped in silver paper. Slowly, slowly, he collected the silver paper and fashioned them into a chess set. And then he was able to borrow, just borrow, mind you, a ballpoint pen to make a chessboard. And this minute little chess set, I mean, following in the tradition of prisoners across the centuries, he made his own set. And I saw that first of all. That was the first thing. Later, because they were preparing us for release, really, in the last 10 months, our food improved. And we actually got a chess set, a real one, genuinely just like this.
How important was that for the team?
It was enormously important because just to sit there and be able, in that, I mean, put it in context, you see, it was a room with no natural light. The windows were barred. We were all chained by the foot to the wall. And we had sometimes extremely difficult. If I wanted to play chess with John McCarthy, I was on this side of the room, he was on that side of the room. I mean, I had to stretch out and be my leg pinned behind me to the wall like that. And John had to stretch out. We had to play across the beds like that. It was all right playing with the person next to you, but to have games like that was quite difficult. But one of the great things about chess is that it is wonderfully absorbing. And somehow you realize when you play chess, if you play it with that degree of concentration, of course, that time takes on a new meaning. And you can almost enter into a semi-contemplative state as you play. And that was wonderful in captivity, you know. I mean, can you imagine, locked in those circumstances, suddenly being able to be released, taken out of yourself into that almost mystical experience? It was great.
Would you say that it could ever, the harmony on the board, could ever take you closer to God? Did it ever give you any religious experience?
Well, I think that, you know, this relationship between symmetry, I mean, in Blake's poetry, for example, perfect symmetry, and harmony, I think they speak to the inner processes, inner self, because as I write in my book, part of the struggle within is to find harmony. In fact, the harmony between light and dark, you know, black and white. And not for one to totally destroy the other, but for somehow the two to blend together so that you find a synthesis within and a harmony. And somehow that inner process is transformed onto the board. But I have to say this, it's not quite a process. The idea breaks down at a certain point because you find that competitiveness enters into it.
Because you mention this in the book, don't you? That there was a great competition between yourself and Tom Sutherland with this, is that right?
Quite, absolutely. Tom was next to me, and he would be. There were times when he didn't want to play, and I used to love to play, and I made a bit of a nuisance of myself, saying, come on, please, have a go, like a child, you know. Oh, come on, please play, you know, like that. He did. And I remember beating him several times on the run because I improved. I couldn't beat, I have to say this, I could not beat Terry. And John McCarthy is a superb player. He'd never played before he came in.
Really?
No, never.
Who taught him? Terry
taught him. And John proved to be a natural. So you ought to get him. If you can get him here, get him have a few good. He's very, very good. Excellent. But Tom and I were roughly equal, but it so happened I had a running streak of luck. And, you know, at the end of the game, he went whoosh, and every piece went off the board. And I was upset about that at the time. Then I thought, well, what we are doing is somehow translating into this game the very emotions that we feel. Every man has to find his own way of surviving. And in a sense, to win at the game is partly to survive. And when you're constantly beaten, as we all were at times, in some ways, at the unconscious level, you say, my gosh, this whole process is going to beat me. You have to win, you have to be competitive.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for coming in. I know your son is a great chess player, isn't he?
Yes, he is, and I don't know whether Mark will be watching this. I know when I went in the other night, I've been dodging here and everywhere. He was sat glued to this program, chessboard on the floor, every move worked out.
Did you give him any help?
I said when I came home, Mark, while I've been away, I've been improving my chess. I said, give me a game, so we sat over the table, and he beat me.
Oh dear. You think he had the grace to lose, just once?
No, he was great. He's a good player, very good player. Yeah, so if he's watching this, you know, hope you enjoy the game today, Mark.
And any words of wisdom for Nigel Short?
How could I possibly advise him, except to say you're giving, no words of wisdom, just to say you're giving both of you an enormous amount of pleasure to a lot of people, and probably more than anything else, introducing to them the best game in the world.
Thank you very much, Terry Waite.
Thank you.